Okay, to wrap up a day and a half obviously is incredibly difficult. We've had a wide-ranging discussion. I hope, first of all, that everybody feels that they have learned a great deal, and most of all, we've generated a great deal of thought. Now, with that in mind, let me try to give my synopsis of recommendations that perhaps could facilitate movement forward. I think the first thing that came across very clearly was that we're not really in a transatlantic crisis. What we're really in is a global crisis. That is, the same issues that are permeating the United States and the European Union are actually being inflicted upon the world as a whole. What I think we can take from this discussion is I really do think we agree basically on the goals. What we may have some differences on that we're going to have to work is the interpretation of the trends themselves, not on the goals, but on the trends. Now, first of all, I think it's becoming irrelevant to utilize the term transatlantic relationship. I think a more accurate term that we should be utilizing now is the transatlantic partnership, in full recognition that the ground has shifted. There are two key issues, as far as I can define, and use these as a basis of the recommendation. First, there is a governance paralysis on a global basis. The transatlantic relationship that had formed the direction of that no longer is capable of doing that independently. And the second thing that follows from that is we clearly are reaching the point, I'm not quite sure we're there yet, but we're clearly reaching the point, and we will be there very soon, of a multipolar world. So let me first of all talk about the governance paralysis. I think it became very clear from the polling data and from our discussion that transatlantic values, our shared culture, is something that we would like to use as the basis for global governance, in the sense that we would like respect for human rights to be a global issue. We would like respect for democracy to be a global issue. The basic values that undergird the transatlantic, what we can call partnership now, I think are the values that we would like us to continue to work on a global level. The question then is, how do we do that? Amid the new powers that are emerging, what we have to look at, first of all, on the transatlantic side, is to expand our definition of what our partnership includes. I think it's becoming obsolete to talk about just the European Union and the United States. It's becoming increasingly significant that we have other partners in this relationship as well. We need to include them. I like the term that Bruno came up with in terms of clusters. I think that's a very nice way to describe it. Now, when it comes to economics, the question that really is going to drive us for quite a while, and I think this is where the interpretation of trends is causing us a little bit of difficulty in our own internal discussions, is exactly where do we see the economic trends going? And I think both Dan and Frank highlighted that there are a little bit of differences there. But we do agree that in solving those problems, that the transatlantic values are the basis of how we should go about doing that. In the concept of security, which is another very somewhat divisive issues, we disagree, and this came very clearly from the polling data, we disagree frequently on individual actions, but we do not disagree on the ultimate goals of what we would like our security policy to be based upon. And those are the goals of the transatlantic partnership. Now, when it comes to a multipolar world, we do have to accommodate the new reality. The new reality is that the United States is not a hyperpower. The United States is not the sole superpower. We have ineffective global institutions that are not capable of accommodating that new reality. The United Nations, the IMF, the G20 are not up to the current task. We need to include new powers and new responsibilities in some sort of more effective global governance structure. Second of all, that came very clearly in how do we achieve that recognition is there has been too little democratic input and too little democratic voice. That's gotten us into an awful lot of trouble, both in Europe as well as the United States. The agenda for the future, where we will start talking about how the multipolar world should be addressing the issues, I think we have a common set of global issues that we should be working on through whatever global structures we come up with, be it global warming, be it terrorism, be it the financial issues. But I do think that what we need to do is to incorporate the voice of the people to make sure that we do not deviate from where we have gotten ourselves into trouble in the future. So what we need to do is let the Transatlantic Partnership be the engine that starts defining the new type of global structure that we need. Now I'll turn it over to Frank. Oh, he's taking his jacket off.
Well, thank you, Brian, and thank you for this great discussion we had for about 2 days. Let me take an example, and go back to the Galveston example, Great Storm. The transatlantic relationship, the way we know it, is a bit like the houses on the shore when the Great Storm of Galveston hit the city. Right now, the specialists of transatlantic relations are thinking that this is just a wave that the global crisis is bringing. In fact, in a matter of 2 years, if this relationship is not changed, so time is going very fast, I think that the transatlantic relationship tools, from NATO to many other aspects, will just be broken into pieces in a matter of 2 years. So let's have an idea of what could be in such a short time a process which could save the relationship or the partnership, as Brian was calling it. Just think in 2008, there was a very important G20 summit in London. 2009. Very important G20 summit in London. Obama had just been elected. This was a time when the US president could have taken the lead to reshape the world. He could have entered the G20 summit in London saying to its 19 other colleagues, "Dear friends, I have to tell you something. We, the US, the American people, we are not anymore able to wait to have the world on our shoulders. Our currency, the dollar, cannot anymore be the only currency of the world. Let's start working immediately to build a new monetary system, and I want to be the leader of this process to build a new world." He would have said that. He would have been followed immediately by the 19 others, and as a US president, he would have gave to the US the ability to shape, in many ways, the form and the structure of the next 20 years of the international monetary system. Unfortunately for the US, Obama didn't do that. Basically, did nothing. This time has passed and will not come back. So, in the coming G20, which is still the place, the group where such a thing can happen, we cannot expect anymore to have the US president doing such a job. Whoever is elected in your country next year will not be able anyhow alone to do that. But, and that's the good news for the transatlantic relationship, next year in Europe, as I said yesterday, there will be a new bunch of leaders elected in Euroland. And I can assure you that they are coming with agendas to make sure that Euroland becomes more stable and stronger and more integrated very fast. They also are and will be very concerned by the need to stabilize and to change the international monetary system. So we could imagine that the US president, who is going to be elected next year, when there will be a G20 certainly by the end of 2012 or early 2013, could work together with the Euroland leaders and having all of them entering the G20 meeting at that time and saying to the rest of the world, guys, we have decided that it's time to reform the international monetary system drastically, and we, as Europeans and Americans, we propose you to go this way and to shape a new system. I believe that this is the only and the single way that we can, as a transatlantic community, make a significant or take a significant influence on reshaping the international monetary system in the coming years. And I remember that we think that without this reshaping or rebuilding of this monetary system, there will be no end to the crisis, which on the contrary will keep on going stronger and with more and more difficulties for all of us. So there is a big hope, I think, on short term. But a big question mark is more on the side of the US right now. I think the European leaders by mid-2012 will be ready for such a kind of change. I wonder what the US election will bring into in terms of leadership, if any of the future candidate or potential candidate will be able to carry this side of the Atlantic into such a needed change for us and for the world. But that's to be seen in 18 months. Thank you.